Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
In San Diego, there were screams yesterday coming out of the ladies' restroom. I'll tell you more about that in just a few minutes. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, good morning. There she is, the lovely, great voice of Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, and don't forget they are locally owned and serving you. 734-6969. Right now, let's say good morning to the lovely Gina Jameson.
Good morning, sunshine. Rather foggy out there.
Rather?
It's like cutting through soup.
I can't see anything. How was it driving over to the station this morning?
I could see about 50 feet in front of me.
50 feet?
Yeah.
So anything 51 feet ahead of you was really in jeopardy.
Yeah, it really, really was, too. And I almost missed this. I mean, I drove the way I always drive, so I know the road very, very, very well. I didn't see the stop sign until I came up on it. You
know, there is nothing more disconcerting to drive in that kind of a pea soup fog, and then when you get to your destination, sit back and think, woo, how lucky you are.
Yeah, really. And this is one of the mornings, and actually we're going to have fog in the forecast, dense fog through the rest of the week, so be careful out there driving.
All right, listen, I just bit a cough drop in half. Did you hear that clunk?
I did.
Oh, my goodness. Anyhow, I didn't do it on purpose. I had it between my cheek and my gum, and it got between my teeth and about killed me. We have a pledger.
Me, you, or Michael?
You always do a good job. Okay. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job. Thank you, Gina. And right now, let's also tell everybody about the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Oh, my, 678-6945, the number to call. And they've got everything for you, all the new decor items for your home. And they're getting ready for Valentine's Day. It's going to be coming up pretty quick. You better get in there and check it out. And they've got new hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and Saturday, 10 to 4. All of this at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
You've got a big cloud on the ground. It's known as fog. Take this to the bank with you. Fog is nothing more than cloud. The cloud is on the ground. It's going to be on the ground for the next 72 hours. If you're traveling today, much of the dense fog is around the Magic Valley. There is an advertisement from the National Weather Service about the fog heading south on US Highway 93. You're coming out of it just like around Rogerson and toward Texas. And it's going to be around for quite a while. And it's going to be cloudy when it burns off. It should burn off right around 11 o'clock, somewhere around lunchtime. You're getting set up for another weather event as you work your way toward the weekend, and that'll take place in the form of rain or mixed rain and snow. But otherwise, at least for the next 72 hours, you got a cloud that's on the ground, and it is known as fog. Daytime highs in the mid to upper 40s, overnight lows in the Upper 20s to low 30s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, your weather sponsor right off the bat this morning. And they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Like I always tell you, look for the blue door. And, they got a lot of newly refurbished furniture, too. You're going to love this place. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Let's get Merv May in here. Merv sells some cattle this morning. What do you think?
All right, he gets the steer calves there here to get $31, 1.5, 31, 1.5, 32, 2.5, 3.5.
Oh, that's the chant of the world's best auctioneer, and that's Merv May over at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call the office, 678-9411. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy. The sale's starting at 10 a.m. this morning. Here's just a little bit of the run they're going to have today. Guy Montgomery of Malda bringing in 15 head of yearlings. Johnson Ranch over to Downey, 30 head of 550-pounders. We've got butcher cows coming in, lots of them. Antelope Hills Dairy, 50 head. Moo Mountain, 35 head. Along with Southridge Dairy, 35 head. East Ridge Dairy, 20 head. P-Bar S Dairy, 35 head. Oakley Valley Dairy is 50 head of butcher cows. And Acme Dairy of Oakley, 20 head of butcher cows. And I said Oak Valley, I hope, just a minute ago. I should have. 50 head of butcher cows. And the sales time starts at 10 a.m. I'm biting this cough drop this morning, and it's really causing me trouble. And it's the first sale of 2015. Everybody be there at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You better believe it, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, 678-9411. Merv, sell those steers.
All right, he gets the steer calves there here to get $31, 1.5, 31, 1.5, 32, 2.5, 3.5, 134, 4.5, 5.5, 130, 550, 135, and I sell them $35. Zeb Bell gets bottom again.
Thank you very much, Merv. We appreciate all you do. Great sale every Thursday at 10 a.m. Everybody be there. Want to remind you, too, about Valleywide Home and Ranch. Oh, my goodness, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, and Sean and Mandy and the whole crew. Did you know, and if you didn't, you should be aware, they've got all kinds of fishing gear there. That's right, they've got all your fishing needs right there at Valleywide. And if you go in and mention that you heard me talking about it on this ad, you'll get a 10% off card for your fishing gear, and you can use it for the rest of this year. What are you waiting for? I'm trying to save you money. Get in there today, Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. And don't forget they got all the hunting and fishing licenses there and all your cold winter needs right there at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. And also want to remind you, too, quickly, about our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. A little bit later on this morning, we're going to have Rita Ramsey on the program. Well, Ramsey Heating and Electric is, of course, operated as they have been for a long time, over half a century, at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. And the hours are 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. And with the cold weather, don't forget, Deanne, I can't do that and do a commercial at the same time, I'm sorry. They've got all the furnace filters. You better believe it. Buy one or a package full of quality air filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric and keep your furnace happy. Happy. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, providing warm winters and cool summers. Right now, we are going to go into our first story. I'll try to get to that during the news at 9 o'clock, Deanne, if you don't mind. And Gina, just a few minutes ago, I mentioned to you about a little story going on down in San Diego. Are you still there?
Yeah, what story about in San Diego? What?
You didn't hear about the business office complex where all of a sudden screams of terror came out of the ladies' room? Why, it was like a horror show.
Let me guess, a man walked in there and used the facility?
No.
What?
And I want to say this as professionally as possible, but a lady was using the facility. Mm-hmm. And to her great discernment and also embarrassment and fear, a 5.5-foot boa constrictor slithered up out of the toilet.
Yeah, I'd be screaming too. I would be screaming.
They said they heard her for miles.
Oh, I bet. And it was a good thing she was probably in the bathroom, because, well, never mind.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
But I understand from sources that I heard this story from that how do you do this and not sound like you're trying to do something that's off color? He slithered up at the wrong time.
Yes. Well, he wanted to know what was going on up there.
Yes.
Somebody was invading his space.
Kind of. And not for long.
No.
And when she jumped and ran, I guess it caused great concern for a lot of people on that same floor. But somebody, they think, had gone into the building or was keeping this 5.5-foot boa constrictor in the building. And he got loose somehow, or somebody decided to flush him to non-existence. And it didn't work because he stayed within the confines of the piping in the office building.
You cannot flush a boa constrictor. I'm sorry.
I've never tried.
I've never tried either, but common sense would dictate. So probably somebody left him there. He could have slithered in through the sewage system.
Yeah, but for
stuff like that.
It is possible, but it sounds like a kind of an inside job to me.
It probably could have been, and I don't mind snakes. They're not my favorite, but if one came through the toilet bowl, let's just say it would not be pretty.
Well, I can't even imagine the poor woman and her distress right now this morning. Her whole life has changed forever.
I think I would be altered and scarred for life.
In many ways.
Oh, boy, howdy.
Yeah, and so I really would like to find out who the woman is so that I could try to contact her to come on this program. And I doubt seriously if I can, but I
doubt seriously she would.
I would really like to. One of the questions I would ask is, upon first seeing the snake, what was your initial reaction?
My question would be how did you know the snake was there?
I don't even want to go there because I'm afraid. I'm really afraid now that no matter what I say from this juncture on, somebody out in the audience is going to view it as possibly not being apropos.
Well, we've already slid downhill, bud.
Yeah. Of course, now, when you think about it, we have every day like that, quite frankly.
Pretty much. What a way to start out the morning in your turlet.
No, I can't imagine, though. I've heard stories of this happening to people that used outdoor plumbing.
Yes.
In other words, the old outhouse.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard about this one where all of a sudden, during business hours, your whole day has been disrupted.
I have not heard of that. Of course, the outhouse stores, you always check before you use the outhouse.
Oh, yeah.
That was just protocol. But, in an office building, you really wouldn't think of that. So
you really don't have concerns of jungle living when you step into the men's or the ladies' room.
Oh, okay. We need to move on to
I'm going. I'm already around the corner, okay? Hey, alrighty, Denny's Restaurant. Now, maybe they won't appreciate their ad coming up next. But Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and our next lunch bunch is going to be on the 22nd. And I want to remind you, they've got not one, but two locations right now. Brand new one at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, the breakfasts, the lunches, and the dinners, and the great service. What a menu! You're going to love it. Great food at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Once again, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. You stop in and see them today. Yeah, I'll bet I got a call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, it's not to run you down. It's kind of comical, I think. I've heard of rats coming up through the sewer before. Down in West Texas, where I grew up, about down below it, about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. The old doctor, Snow Country doctor out there, pretty backward and whatever else, but he said, I get quite a few calls for black widow bites in certain places from them two-holers.
No kidding.
Black widow spiders were horrible down there in them.
What is this?
We kept a stick laying there so you could reach around under the hole and try to knock the webs down and the spiders down.
Oh my gosh! You know now.
He laughed about the number of instances in which he treated spider bites in particular places, and a black widow bite is nasty.
Oh, you know now. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you a question here, real quick. Also, down in that Texas and Oklahoma country, do you not also have the very dangerous brown recluse spiders?
We did not have brown recluse that I know of at that time. They do today.
Because I had a very, very couple of good friends that were trick riders for the rodeo business that lived in Chickasha, Oklahoma. And back in the late 70s, his wife was bitten by a brown recluse in the calf portion of her leg, and she lost an awful lot of the actual flesh of her leg and had almost a very life-threatening experience. So I guess they're pretty dangerous.
Now, brown recluse is a real nasty one, but I just thought the black widow bite in the wrong spot. I mean, you don't want them biting anywhere.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the wrong spot.
Fun, I'm sure.
All right, sir. God bless you, man. Thanks so much. Thank you. That is definitely the wrong spot. But that poor lady, I mean, like Gina said a little bit ago, she is scarred for life. I'll let your mind do your walking for you. Anyway, don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental, Eli, Nick, and the rest of the crew. Oh, my, they've got all the equipment for any job, and they've got the equipment to get it done right, too. Don't forget, they've got all the Doosan loaders, 0% financing, and great lease options right now. You can contact Nick and Eli to get your Doosan loader today, and retail equipment sales, equipment rentals, parts and service, all of it right there with Barry Equipment and Rental. 3 locations: Addison Avenue West Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Barry Equipment and Rental. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Got a birthday, too, I want to acknowledge. Deanne just handed me the note, and happy birthday to Jerry Werner over in the Eden-Hazleton area. I understand, no, not today. It's tomorrow. His birthday is tomorrow, so happy birthday tomorrow to Jerry Werner. There you go. As you know, yesterday was another day of severe heartache and mourning and danger and fear. All of these words come into play with the fallout from what happened over in Paris, France yesterday, which really has engulfed the entire world. And I want to just show you something verbally on the air this morning and tell you how devastating sometimes the news media can be when they aren't sure of what they're trying to say and they give wrong information out, and they're not sure about the outcome. I have this from the Inquisitor. Okay? And this came out yesterday afternoon late. And this is the headline in the paper. Quote, Paris shooting suspects arrested. Said Saeed and Sharif Kachi and Hamid Marad linked to Muslim terrorist group. Now, the key words are Paris shooting suspects arrested. Okay? Then the New York Times yesterday afternoon, late in the afternoon, came out with a headline that said, 1 suspect surrenders in attack on French newspaper to others at large. So this is the point I'm getting at. News media needs to be very, very, very cautious about putting out anything, whether it's television, whether it's radio, or whether it's newspaper, or whatever. When you get big newspapers, the facts were completely distorted. And 2 of the 3 bad guys are still on the lam over in the greater Paris, France area. Some are thinking that they're making a run for the border. Some say that you heard the newscast from CBS at 8 o'clock that they were spotted trying to buy gasoline, and they had heavy weapons and everything. And I'm telling you, it's a terrible situation. The pain and the fear that these individuals have caused is absolutely, I don't even want to imagine it. We're talking about the families of 12 people that were dead from this action. We are talking about all the residual people, the family members, and the aunts and uncles, and all the friends and neighbors of each and every one of the dead, and then also the same for the wounded. This is a horrendous attack on society. And I said this yesterday when I was talking to some folks. I hope that they get all of them and they are brought in the front door and carried out the back. These people do not deserve a trial. These people do not deserve anything. They are horrendous vermin killers. And one of the brothers of the, I want to get the name right, Kawachi brothers. One brother has been arrested before for jihadist activity. He's not a stranger to this kind of a problem. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I think what I'll do before I start taking a lot of your calls, I'm going to go with the Capital Press Ag Minute, and I want to say thanks to Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley, and they will meet or beat any competitor pricing. Adam and Josh and the whole crew serving you. Don't forget they also carry trailer parts. A lot of people don't know that. And they also have a service to you, junk car removal. You give them a call. Good folks, 678-2321, Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
A federal mediator is getting involved in stalled contract talks between West Coast dock workers and their employers. Political and financial pressure has been building as each side blamed the other for the slow movement of billions of dollars of cargo across the docks at 29 seaports that are a vital trade link with Asia. The slowdown has cost farmers millions in lost sales. While the development does not mean an immediate return to normalcy at the seaports, a mediator has proven pivotal in past contract disputes. Farm and commodity groups say slowdowns at the ports have hampered foreign shipments of crops, including fruit, berries, hay, fresh potatoes, and Christmas trees, along with processed foodstuffs. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. Wonderful people serving you and the community. Absolutely. Pacific Steel and Recycling. Why don't you give me a call? 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. They have a survey that came out, and I was skipping through the networks. My finger got tired last night going through everything. And I settled upon a station, I think this came from MSNBC. I tried to get to all the different stations. And they had a poll that showed that almost 75% of the people in France view Muslims as intolerant. And they, the French, blame Muslims for most of the internal strife in their country. And they are having really high numbers of Islamic people, Muslims, moving into their area and region. And there's a lot of distrust and a lot of intolerance right now because of actions just like what took place yesterday. And Europeans in general, over in Germany and France and other areas, are asking a question as of yesterday and this morning, and the question is getting louder and louder. Why are their countries' leaders letting so many of these jihadists, Muslims, whatever terminology you want to use, into their countries, and then they are trying to change the internal mechanism of the country to favor what they were leaving? In other words, turn it into an Islamic area and state. And there's a lot of Europeans, as I said, that want to have immigration policies looked at and revealed to the public and possibly cut back on. And so is the same thing being said here in the United States. Give me your thoughts. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. In accordance with what happened yesterday, terror alerts have been raised all over the globe, and from our illustrious President Obama, the same kind of rhetoric came out of his mouth again last night while in Michigan. He said, they will ultimately be put down. You know, you hear the same thing all the time. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Yeah, I talk about the rhetoric part, that's for sure, but you know, we can't feel too secure here in the valley of all of the Muslims that have come into this valley. And a friend told me at a meeting yesterday about a caller that had called in to another talk show host in the valley here about defending the actions of these killers yesterday. Mm-hmm. That should, make us a little bit weary that we have these sympathizers with this kind of action right here in good old Magic Valley.
No area.
They don't want to assimilate, and of course in France they have their own little communities. Flint, Michigan, basically is taken over by the Muslims, and so they're just ahead of us.
Adrian,
so we better be starting to prepare for the same kinds of things over there that here if we don't take action.
Adrian, I think you will agree with me on this, and if not, we'll arbitrate with each other just a little bit. I am not, and I want to be really careful how I say this, I am not going to lump everybody together and say that, quote unquote, they are all bad and I am fearful of all of them. I'm not. It's kind of like getting an apple full of barrels, or a barrel full of apples. You know that you're going to get some bad ones in there, but they are not all bad. I think we have to be very discerning about who are causing the problems right now, and it's so easy to lump all of them together and say the Muslims. But you know something? In fairness, it's really tough right now when you're living in fear.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Marco Polo, and I don't remember what his, somebody sent me an email, showed Marco Polo said, the militant Muslims cut off your head while the moderates will not take action and just hold your feet while the action takes place. So, see, that's the problem. They scare everybody, even their own people. Look what's happening over in the Middle East.
Yeah.
They're killing their own people.
Well, now, wait a minute. Let's look at it this way, too, and I think you'll agree with me on this statement, that let's just use tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Friday morning. If all of the Muslim-based countries, whether it's Saudi Arabia, I don't care who it is, all of them and their leaders would come out and absolutely denounce this kind of activity, that would be a green light that things are getting better, I think. But how many times have you heard on any of these attacks, whether it's the beheadings, whether it's this attack on this newspaper, how many denouncements have you heard?
None. You won't, because see, they're in fear as well. Either that or they're complicit to it. And of course, the whole thing with, you just hear the talk shows evening last night, and everybody says, why doesn't our president come out, make a strong stand against this stuff? That's because he's openly admitted, about his Muslim faith. And It slipped out many, many times. I've seen YouTube videos of him, basically saying that.
Yeah.
And so he goes around still pretending that he's a Christian. He's not a Christian, and he certainly doesn't by his actions. Christianity.
He was raised.
He does make excuses or take a sidestep, just like he did yesterday, not coming out and calling it a terrorist act until everybody in the world said it first.
Absolutely. Got to run, Adrian, but I appreciate your call as always. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There have been, like Adrian just alluded to at the end of his conversation, there have been many, many people, including myself, be very, very critical of the administration, whether it's Josh Earnest, the spokesman for the White House, whether it's Obama himself, whether it's John Kerry, Secretary of State. They refuse to call what it is and who did it by the proper terminology. For some reason, there is a big, big fear factor to call it what it is. Many, many generals, many people that are involved in the frontline fighting of terror have said, look, call it what it is. Islamic Jihad, Muslim terrorism. That's what it is. You can't shelter it. But yet the White House and our president, they always do. What he said was, they will ultimately be put down. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh my, I swear by these folks. They have got a very, very conscientious staff. Nick Greenwell and the rest of his staff, Jordan, Jeff, Orlando, Emily, Kelly, Tia, Jared, I don't want to forget anybody. And they do a wonderful job with all the sports medicine and all the exercises, and they got that hydrotherapy pool. Oh my, you are going to feel better after that. They help you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call for an appointment, 678-1191. You call them today. All right, give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I certainly hope, and we'll keep monitoring the situation, that those two brothers, the Kawachi brothers, are brought to justice. And I mean brought to justice in not too long a time. Other stories this morning. I'll take this call first and foremost. Good morning, you're on the air.
You mentioned John Kerry.
Yes.
I just finished a book about him, Unfit for Command, written by guys who served with in Vietnam. And that's right, he's unfit for command. Here we got him as Secretary of State. And he's a yellow belly. I don't know why the hell somebody would pick him for Secretary of State.
You know, Fred, over the years, I've had to mellow and watch my words in the last couple of years. I guess it's old age setting in. But here's
for some reason I can't hardly hear you.
I'm sorry. Maybe we can turn it up a little bit. I don't know. But for some reason, I am absolutely shocked that somebody that absolutely could not stand the United States and showed his contempt for his country during the Vietnam War, how that person could be like a Jane Fonda and end up in the Secretary of State position, it amazes me.
It is amazing. The way he wiggled around to get his Purple Heart with a scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And, it's unreal.
Well, and it's almost eerie and spooky to think that that kind of thought process from back in the late 60s and early 70s of Vietnam now is basically a couple of heartbeats away from the Oval Office. It really gives you pause to consider how serious this is.
Well, I can't understand it, but I can't hear you, so I'm going to hang up.
All right, Fred, I apologize. I do. Thank you so much for your call. God bless you, man. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
They hung up.
Oh, have patience. Have patience. I will be right there, I promise. While I'm waiting for you to call back, because I really do appreciate your call, give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Scows CarQuest Centers. Now, I am honored to have them on my program. I see their trucks going zoom, zoom, zoom by my place all the time. Customer satisfaction is always the goal at Scows CarQuest Centers. And don't forget, every detail matters. Since 1949, they've got all your automotive replacement products, accessories, and supplies for virtually every single vehicle. That's right. And the locations are at 518 Overland Avenue in Burley, 323 East 8th and Highway 25 in Rupert, and exit 211 I-84 for their big truck location. Hey, I'm telling you, don't forget they got all your antifreeze needs. They got your gas and diesel supplements. They've got everything for you and your safe driving at Scows CarQuest Centers. The very best, like I said, every detail matters. All right, give me a call. Come on, call me back, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I got to get Gina back on for this one. Gina, if I handed you a bottle of water, and let's say it was at a remote broadcast or something, and you said, oh, gee, I'm thirsty, would you take the bottle of water, no questions asked, and just take a drink of it? She must be on the phone. Let's check. Maybe we have another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, Zeb?
Yes, sir.
Hey, a few years back, my son took us over to Dearborn. We went to a restaurant, and it was really good food and a nice restaurant, and we were sitting there eating, and these guys, they waited on us, and I think we was the only ones in there. Might have been another couple, but these guys, they stood back by the where they were cooking and where the servants were standing, and they just kept looking out at us, and man, it just really give you an uneasy feeling. And so we came back to Idaho, and in about 2 months, my son called, and he told us that restaurant had been closed down because they were using the profit, the money from the restaurant, to support the Taliban.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
so they went in there and closed it up. But anyhow, at that time, it was safe to go down there. I don't know if it is any longer. My son doesn't work at the hospital there anymore. He's in Colorado. But, you know, Roosevelt, one thing I do agree with Roosevelt, not too often, but he did when he said the only thing to fear is fear itself. And I think that's what's happening to the United States and to France and these countries. I don't think, you know, why are we fearing them? My word, why don't we just go in there and clean house?
I don't think Dwayne, I got to correct you on one thing, and I think you'll agree with the correction. I don't think it's fearing the country. I think it's fearing some of the people that are representing, perhaps, the populace of that country.
Right, and I know, and I can understand that, and I know what their fear is, you know, these guys, they don't come after you, they come after your family.
That's right.
And that's where the fear is. But what we need is to get a militia and get rid of Obama, where he doesn't tell the names of all these guys that's in this militia, and they need to get a group of people that have no record or no family record. You don't know who in the world they are. They're just a bunch of fighters that go in there, and that way these guys won't be able to find out whose family is who. And I agree, there's a reason to be fearful.
Absolutely.
But they need to they need to do it under those circumstances.
Well, and I think that I got to do a weather forecast, but I want to have you respond to this. I think all of us, like I said yesterday morning, we need to be much more cognizant of what's going on around us. And I think there is a naivete, and I think you'll agree with me, in small rural states and communities, etc. Well, that can never happen here. It might happen in New York, it might happen in L.A., etc. No, it can happen anywhere today because of this lone wolf philosophy that's been adopted by a lot of these very radical jihadists. And we all need to be very much aware of everything that's going on anywhere.
Well, you know, I'm a student of the Bible, and as I read the Bible, several years in our standard, but not too many years in history, there was a case where, and I'm not a total fanatic, but I do believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in God. And I believe that God has warned us. And the Israelites, they had been warned throughout time to straighten up their act and to follow Him. They didn't do it. Jeremiah, you can read in there. And they kept warning him and warning him. And it's not beyond happening today that some of these farmers that are out there plowing dirt right now, we all may end up over there plowing sand. They have taken the Jews totally out of their country, into their country, and used them as slaves, and they moved into where they wanted to go. Israel was removed. There's not, they can kill 2/3 of us off, and then they can take the other third out of the country, and they can move in here.
We cannot, at any time now, rest or relax our vigilance. I got to run, Dwayne. Thank you so much. Thank you. Weather this hour is brought to you by Red's Trading Post, and boy, believe me, they've got free appraisals of your firearms, and if you're low on cash, they buy firearms and offer pawn loans. They've got a huge selection of exclusive and limited edition firearms, and also providing concealed weapons classes from LMS Defense and Legal Heat. My, you better get into Red's Trading Post today in Twin Falls and see my buddy Ryan Horsley and the crew at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. Hello.
Rogers is up at the ranch. Got some fog working for it today. Looks pretty thick too. You can be looking at the Prime Memorial Bridge. I can't see on the other side of it. The cloud's going to be around us for the next, I'm going to give you about 72 hours, right through Sunday. 40 for the high today, 29 for the overnight low. Now, the fog is just basically in the Magic Valley so far. If you head down toward Rogers and the jackpot of U.S. Highway 93 heading south, you'll come out of it as soon as you get on the other side of Rogerson. But right now, the fog is pretty thick, pretty dense. Looks a chance of snow possibly on Sunday night, rain and snow on Monday. But otherwise, be careful with the fog today. Enjoy the weather. So what do you got?
Red's Trading Post, of course, in historic Old Town Twin Falls, in the family since 1936. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, I asked you this question a minute ago, and then I realized you were on the phone. But if you were at a remote broadcast and said, oh, I'm so thirsty, I need water, and I handed you a bottle of water, would you just open it and take a drink and not even pay any attention to it?
If it was from you or from somebody that I knew personally, yes, I would. If it was from a complete stranger, no, not unless the cap was sealed.
Yeah, but in this case, the cap may be sealed. Did you hear about Bill Gates and where he's putting a lot of millions and millions of dollars? Yeah, well, here you go. And it's another one of those delicate stories. Bill Gates, caller, stay on the line. We'll be right with you. But Bill Gates is going to put a lot of money into the forming, building, and processing of taking human sewage, baking it at high levels of temperature, extracting the moisture, purifying it, and selling it as new bottled water.
Oh, gross. That's all I'm no.
I can't help it either. It made my brow furrow.
It makes my stomach want to hurl.
And you know what was yesterday? I caught a picture of him on the news, and he was actually sipping during the interview water that had gone through this process.
Well, he can drink it all he wants to. Boy, how'd he go for it, mister, but I ain't gonna.
I agree with you. Thank you very much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
What a way to start the day.
Well, gee, I'm keeping you up on the news.
Now we're drinking dirty water out of a sewer. Man, what are you on today?
Hey, stop. If I didn't give you the news, you'd be mad if I didn't tell you about it.
Yeah, but let's get something a little bit more nicer.
Don't tell me how to operate the boat when you're sitting in the front of it waiting to fall off.
Oh, man, I tell you, this world is becoming one big cesspool, you know it?
Well, that fits with Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Anyway, have a good one.
All right, buddy. Thanks an awful lot. Was there another call that just called in? Good morning, caller, if there is. Oh, okay. But can you imagine he's going to sink a ton of money into this because he's turned into a world big environmentalist, and he says it will save literally billions of gallons of water, and he's going to push for legislation that's going to make it to where we're forced to use it.
No, they can send it elsewhere. Send it to a third world country. I hate to be rude. I don't know. Water your fields with it. I ain't going to drink it.
I was watching a television program yesterday afternoon late after we got home, and the one person on the panel that was told about this had not been aware of where the water was coming from. And this woman was just about to open up the bottle and take a sip of it, and you should have seen the expression on her face just prior to taking the lid off. It told and summed the whole story up right there.
And so let me guess, she did not take the lid off, and she just gently set it back down and just kind of left it there.
Let me just tell you that it wasn't gentle.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, she was very upset that they almost let her take a drink of it.
Oh.
Yeah, she was upset and mad.
Yeah.
And I think that today, in any kind of processing, as you well know, Gina, you've been in the news business almost all your life. I don't care if it's ice cream. I don't care if it's making pretzels. I don't care if it's processing meat for hamburgers. There are always going to be mess-ups and mistakes.
Agreed. There always will be.
And when you're talking about taking human sewage and turning it into purified water for general public consumption, I absolutely think that there's going to be mistakes, and something devastating is going to happen.
Yeah, there is going to be a mistake. Somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to get sued.
Yep. Anyway, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I'd appreciate your call, so give me a jingle. And while I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, and we probably had a lot of people that are going to work hungry this morning that are not going to eat their breakfast. Sorry! Hey, stop into your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and I mean serving you. They've got all the traction tires for your winter driving. They've got all the tires pinned for studs. They've got all your tire chains. Yep, they want to keep you safe and on the road. And then, of course, too, they've got the best in brake service and front-end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. You know, batteries are so doggone important in these cold winter months. Make sure you got a good one. Just stop in and see any one of the 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
I'm going to give you something a little bit lighter this morning. You were talking about the PETA and animal rights people yesterday. I have a cousin in Minnesota who is both a private and government trapper, and he attended one of their conventions, the trappers' conventions, and a woman from PETA came up to him and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself wearing a raccoon coat like that, killing those animals." And he said, "Oh, lady, you don't understand. We don't kill them, we just trap them and take the skins off, and then we turn them loose so they can grow anew." And she said, "Oh, well, that's different. I'm sorry."
She honestly believed that? Oh, my. Thank you, Adrian. It's always good to hear from you. And you know, with I want to ask you a question real fast, Adrian. Stay on the line here for a second. We got a kind of a bad connection, so if you can't hear me, let me know. But real quick, you are originally from Minnesota. I'm originally from Wisconsin, neighboring states. And the wolf population, according to the people that I've talked to, especially up in the Rhinelander, Wisconsin area and other parts, I don't know about Minnesota as much, but I've talked to various outfitters and guides and hunters. The wolf populations are completely out of control. What have you heard about your state of Minnesota?
Well, that is very true. In fact, the latest wolf that he trapped was in South Minnesota, southern Minnesota, well, almost to Mankato, down in that country, and, of course, over towards Litchfield, Wilmer, that country. But the thing is, the one he trapped, he took into the Fish and Game, or DNR there, and they have to have them identified and so forth.
Right.
And they said, well, that isn't a wolf, that's a big coyote. And this man is in his 70s, he's been trapping all his life. And he said, oh, well, okay, if you say so. So, of course, he sold it as a wolf. But even those people that are supposed to know don't know.
Yeah.
And he said it's completely out of control there in Minnesota. And I grew up around the wolf country on the Canadian border.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's just 2 and 3 times what it was then, maybe even more.
Absolutely. Oh, so good to hear from you, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessed New Year to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice lady right there. And, boy, oh boy, we got some other things in the news I didn't get a chance to get into. The NYPD very upset, extremely upset at Mayor Bill de Blasio. As a matter of fact, they're so upset that they're not really doing their job. And this came out that the arrests in New York City are down 56%. And the ticketing in New York City is down 92%. The cops do not like Mayor Bill de Blasio, and they're showing him their disdain for him. We're going to come back next hour, and we've got the Chamber report, and I need a mechanic to call me at about 9:12 next hour. I need a mechanic to call me that knows all about modern-day fixer-uppers and everything else. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain this after the Chamber of Commerce report, because I saw a news story that I kind of have a difference of opinion on, and I need an auto mechanic to call me at about 9:12. Give me a call. All that coming up next hour. I'll see you in 6. Okay. No more stories about snakes in the commode or ugly water. Anyhow, good morning. Zeb at the ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and serve is the correct word. They really take care of you. And also, we want to mention, too, about our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward and his staff and family serving you, giving you family attention. And they also operate under very flexible hours just to be there when you need them. Always with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity at Hanson Mortuary. All of us should get the information about pre-planning of funerals to help alleviate the stress and the worry for our families. Please call them today. Joel Heward at Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Let's go to the phone line, and lo and behold, we talked to her, before Christmas at our Christmas party. She graciously came over and walked in and shared with us and all the festivity. Good morning, Kay Cameron. How are you?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
Fantastic, and I guess it goes without saying, Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
What are you doing?
New Year, it's great.
All right. What's going on over at the Chamber?
Well, we had our first board meeting of the new year this morning. That's always exciting. We have new officers at the helm and new directors on board, and we're looking for a great year in 2015. I just tell you what, I just think 2015 is going to be a fabulous year.
I pray that you're right. Now, was this a BORED meeting or a BOARD meeting?
No, my monthly chamber directors get together and discuss our chamber policy and things going on, and Yeah, it was great.
Well, now, when you sit down with your board and you go over everything, I mean, are you always looking to add new things to the calendar, et cetera? I mean, how do you go about discerning what you're going to be a part of and what you're not going to do?
Well, first of all, you can't just always add and add and add, because then your plate gets too full and you just can't excel and do good at the things that you already do. But at the same time, you've got to stay relevant and you've got to stay fresh, and you've got to stay on top of the local issues and the issues that are facing our communities, and make sure that we are addressing things going on and, staying on top of the things that affect our local businesses and having those conversations. And so, you do want to implement new things, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the things that you're already doing, you're doing as best as you can.
Absolutely. Now, as you gaze towards the latter half of January into February, I mean, what items really stand out that you should let the public put on their calendar?
Well, we're always excited. The end of January, the 22nd, is our annual installation banquet when we install our new chamber directors. We talk about our vision for the upcoming year. It's a great opportunity to come and meet with others involved in the chamber, do some networking, and just be a part of this great community. And so that is something that we have coming up in January.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of our big thing. But, we're involved in a lot of other things. I got a call yesterday from Kaja High School, and they're putting together an agriculture industry day for their students where they will have the opportunity to have a hands-on experience and visit different facilities in our community and let their students experience the opportunities available here. So I'm looking forward to working with them on that project, because that is so important. The thing I hear over and over out in our community is there's just no opportunities, there's nothing for my kids, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We currently have 3% unemployment rate here in the Mini-Cassia area. We just talked about that this morning, and our unemployment rate is really low, and if you notice, everywhere you go, there's people hiring, but we do have a lot of skilled jobs, and there's a need for more skilled jobs, and there will be in the future as we have new growth and new industry coming to our community.
Kay, what you just said is absolutely the way I feel, and I know this sounds a little harsh to some people, but I think it's so easy to blame others for perhaps your shortcomings or your ne'er-do-wells. You persons can create their own opportunities. They can create betterness in their life. They can't always sit back and blame others for shortcomings.
Absolutely. And like I said, we have a lot of great opportunities here, but you hear, well, my child, they had to move to this state, or they had to move here, and they had to move there. And I know the state of Idaho has a campaign right now, and we actually watched the video this morning on it. It's called Choose Idaho, and you can go to the Department of Labor website and submit a resume. So if any of your listeners out there have family members that would like to get back to Idaho, they can submit their resume on this Choose Idaho website, and they will place them with industry in our state that is looking to bring people back, because we want to bring these talented people back to Idaho because we have a real need for that workforce.
Absolutely. Now, if there's somebody out there in the audience that maybe has just moved into the area, maybe they're thinking about moving their business into the area, how? And this is always interesting to me. How do they get a hold of the Chamber of Commerce?
Come by and see us. We're located at 1177 7th Street in Heyburn on the beautiful Snake River, which I can't see this morning, but I know it's there. Give us a call at 208-679-4793. Find us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Connect on LinkedIn, and find us online at minicashiachamber.com. I kind of got tongue twisted.
No, you still do a great job with that because, man, you lost me. God bless you, Kay, and thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot. Very nice lady, the director of the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce, and Kay Cameron. I really appreciate her coming on the program. I'm going to call for a mechanic, and I'm going to get Gina involved in this because she knows all about cars and engines and everything. But if there's a mechanic out there listening, in the audience, I want you to call the radio station right now at 436-2244. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Stand by. I want to remind you, too, about our friends that sponsor our weather every morning when we sign on at about 8:07. And that's Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Their number to call, 678-6945. And they've got new hours at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, and they are Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 10 to 4. And check out all the new home decor items. Oh, and Valentine's Day's coming up. You check it out at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door on Oakley Avenue. Are you there, Gina?
Yeah, so what do you need a mechanic?
Well, I got a question, and if a mechanic wants to call in, and I know you know a ton more about engines than I do, there was a story in the paper the other day, and I want to read part of this to you, and then you can give me your response, and maybe we can have an auto mechanic call in. Okay. The headline of the story was, Why People Still Think They Should Idle Their Cars in the Winter. Now, here is what the EPA Office of Transportation put out on their letterhead to answer this. Okay. They said, quote, when a car idles for more than 30 seconds, it has several negative effects, such as increasing air pollution unnecessarily, wasting fuel and money, and causing excessive wear or even damaging a car's engine components, including cylinders, spark plugs, and the exhaust system. Okay. Let me make my point here first, though. Let me make my point, and then I want you to respond. If that's the case of idling and it's doing damage to your car, then they better take down every doggone stop sign in Twin Falls, especially at 5 points, where you're going to sit there sometimes 2 to 3 to 4 minutes. Do you buy that it's going to hurt your vehicle?
No, as a matter of fact, especially on cold mornings like it has been, you want to idle your vehicle. Number one, you're going to get more wear and tear on your vehicle if you just start it up and run it down the road, because the oil has not had time to circulate and warm up and create that viscosity that your engine needs to run smoothly. Number two, you're not going to save yourself, or you're not going to get any better gas mileage or get any worse gas mileage for that matter. Your car needs to warm up and run at optimum temperature.
Yeah, listen to this. And my dad would roll over in his grave and come out and box my ears if I did this. This is what they said from the EPA. Today's automobile manufacturers recommend driving off right away and urge that drivers wait no more than 30 seconds. I've never heard of that.
Does everybody in the world own a brand new 2015 car?
I don't.
I don't either. I've got a 1976 Chevy pickup with a 456 Buick engine in it. You cannot just start it up and run off. You've got to let that engine warm up, or you're going to have problems. You're going to cause excessive wear and tear, and you're going to be dying a couple of times until the engine does wear up. Not everybody owns a brand new vehicle.
Yeah, but when
a lot of people are still running cars from the 80s and the early 90s that are not meant to just start up and go.
All right, but now go back to what I said a minute ago. And again, I very easily profess, and it's true, I'm very limited on my knowledge about mechanics because I don't like that kind of thing. Okay, if it was horses or anything else, yeah, we could talk for hours. But when they say something like idling really damages your car engine and the components and damages the cylinders and the spark plugs, well then, okay, and you know I'm right about this. You go out to North 5 Points in Twin Falls and sit there, and if the light turns red, you're going to be sitting there for as much as 2, 3, maybe even 4 minutes.
Absolutely.
Now that's a lot different than starting it up and waiting 30 seconds to a minute to let the oil warm up a little bit.
And here's my question. Okay, so if we're not supposed to idle our cars and warm them up when it's frigid -5 degrees outside, and to warm up our cars so we can get our kids in there, why did they give us remote starts?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we've got Riley on the phone.
Okay, good. Riley, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. You know, as far as trucks, big trucks, semis, what have you, the bigger diesel engines, if you do not start them and get them running, get that oil moving around like Gina's talking about, not only does it move the engine, but it starts moving other components inside there. Now, if your automatic transmissions, it starts moving the torque converter and getting that oil warmed up, and then your transmission will get warmed up too. If you don't warm it up, like she's saying, that oil will not be there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, when you lose an engine on a big truck, I don't care what year it is, it's a total loss.
Yeah.
The engine is the heart and soul of the vehicle.
Well, I know for a fact that my diesel pickup, I've got a ton truck pickup diesel, and you just don't get in and turn that on and start driving out of the yard. I mean, this to me is complete idiocy, and I wanted to get people that know more about it than I do. Riley, I got another call. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. This is Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, I was a mechanic for 30 years in one form or another. Worked on everything from weed eaters all the way up to 707 jet engines.
Okay.
You are right about your diesel. It is really bad for a diesel engine to start up cold.
Yeah.
And just go with it. The oil hasn't had a chance to circulate to the bearings, to the rings, and all that. You need to let a diesel especially warm up a few minutes before you go with it.
Now, I'm going to stop you. I want to stop you there. Hold on. Don't go too fast. Don't outrun my pass. But that's why they have the option on most diesels to plug them in and keep that warm so that you don't have that severity in the oil and the starting up problem, right?
Yes, that helps them start easier in cold weather because the coolant and the block and stuff is already warm.
Right.
And it takes and absorbs that latent heat from the mass of the engine to build that compression heat that it needs to go.
So, wait a minute, stop right there. More questions. So when they write an article like this, and they do not differentiate between gasoline and diesel outfits, this person from the Washington Post that wrote this article, Chris Mooney, could be doing a lot of damage if readers do this in cold weather right now back in the Midwest and the East, where it's like wind chills down to 35 below, and they just turn the key on and go. They could absolutely be tearing apart their vehicle, right?
Yes, they could be damaging their engine. They could be damaging their transmission. If it's a four-wheel drive vehicle, the transfer case, the rear ends, they need to be driven slowly for a couple of blocks to get that oil to start moving and circulating so that it can get lubricate and everything.
All right, now real quick, wait a minute, stop. Go back to what I mentioned a little bit ago when they said that idling your engine causes excessive wear or even damaging a car's engine components, including cylinders, spark plugs, and exhaust systems. Well, now you're a mechanic. What is the difference between when you start it up letting it idle or if you're at a stop sign?
Okay, when you're at a stop sign, normally the vehicle is already warmed up.
Okay.
And the oil is flowing and all the components are warmed up. When it's dead cold in the morning, the oil isn't circulating. It's not warmed up yet. And that's where 90% of the wear comes from on most engines is that initial startup in the first minute. I
agree. I got to run and see if we got some more calls. And I do appreciate your calling in on this because, like I said earlier, my dad, if I would have went out and started up a vehicle and just put it in gear and drove off, he would have boxed me black and blue. I mean, I just don't agree with this philosophy, even though they say that new cars are different. I still maintain you've got to have a little time there to get everything warmed up and ready to rock and roll.
Well, they're a little bit different in the metallurgy, which may help, but it still causes that wear at that initial startup.
All right, sir. God bless you for your call. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I read that article and I thought, man, all the people back in the Midwest this morning and the East this morning that would read this article by Chris Mooney of the Washington Post and go out and just start their vehicles and drive away? Oh, I don't agree with that. Hey, let's ride. Yes, sir, where the fun is sold. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Absolutely, they've got all the brand new 2015 Yamaha snowmobiles in there. Fun in the angel dandruffs. I'll tell you what, they've got all the accessories, they've got all the clothing, they've got you ready to hit the mountain. You better believe it. And stop in and check out all the ATVs. The showroom is just chock full. Oh my goodness, they've got everything over there. All the accessories for everything, and they've got a fantastic service department. Those guys really know their stuff. You stop in today at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Yep, that's where the fun is sold. Also, real quick, let's see, what else have I got to tell you about here? Oh, my dear friends, Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens, Highway 24 in Rupert. You know, when it comes to being protected and having kind of a peace of mind type thing where you sit there and go, yup, on the life insurance, yup, on the health insurance, yup, on the retirement planning and the employee benefits, kind of nice, isn't it? Fold your hands and just kind of close your eyes and be relaxed because you had Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens take care of you at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment, 436-4424. 436-4424. Holy mackerel! Where did all these dogs come from anyway?
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs
You got dogs all over the place. Look out, Ruby, here comes a whole pack of wild ones. My goodness sakes, it's time for Animal Control with Minidoka Animal Control Officer Ken Mort. Dog Nation is running rampant. Good morning, sir.
Actually, you don't get Officer Ken Mort today. You get me.
That's like I said a moment ago, and in place of Officer Mort, we have his Assistant Officer, Lieutenant Gina Jameson.
Yes. Actually, he is out and about and probably couldn't make it in today, but he did tell me who he did want to feature this morning.
You go right ahead.
Well, he wants to feature a little guy by the name of Red. He is at the shelter right now. I'm trying to get down to his picture. They've got a lot of things going on over there at the shelter, but Red is, I can't find Red. Well, if you get onto the Minidoka Good Powers Animal Control Shelter, you get onto their Facebook page. This is what I'm doing right now, and I'm trying to find all of their pictures.
Oh, where did old Reddy go?
Yeah, I'm actually, maybe that's Red.
Oh.
Nope. Anyway, they have a lot of cute little puppies that have been dropped off and picked up, and also they've got a little Chihuahua available for adoption. And,
Taco!
Yes, they've got a lot of cute little guys up there. And here is what I'm going to say, because I see Mort an awful lot. And there are a lot of dogs running at large with no collars or anything on that. Now, if people know... and they live in the city of Rupert or even out in the county, there is a leash law in effect, and you cannot have your dog running at large. In my neighborhood alone, there's 4 different male dogs running at large, dumping over trash, eating the trash, blah, blah, blah. And about 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, a little puppy showed up in my yard, had a huge cranberry jar stuck over its head.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
What kind of cranberry was it so that we could go to the grocery store and tell them that all dogs really...
Well, no, it was obviously this little puppy, and they have named him, and he is up for adoption right now. He is, we don't know where he came from. I'm assuming he was probably a Christmas present. Somebody let him outside, didn't go and look for him, and this little guy had been running around. He was so hungry that he stuck his head inside of a plastic cranberry jar, and he couldn't get it off. We don't know how long he'd been like that. He came to our house, and then, of course, we got him all fixed up and got the cranberry jar off of his head, and by the time we did that, gave him some food, and this little guy had been hungry. So people...
Okay, wait a minute. I want to hear this because inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
Where did you learn how to get, quote-unquote, a cranberry jar off of a dog's head?
Well, you have to gently pull their ears through first.
I see. Gently. And do you have to put, like, Vaseline or anything on the top of the jar?
No, it was plastic.
Oh.
And he was a puppy, so his head was still pretty small, except for he just couldn't quite get it over his ears.
It would have been fun, in a way, to hear him bark. Did he kind of go, whoop, whoop?
You know, I wasn't home at the time when my brother was hearing it, but he's like, I heard like this muffled dog barking.
Yeah.
And so he goes outside, sees what's going on, felt sorry for the poor little guy because he's only a couple months old.
Oh.
And so Sean brings him inside and helps him out. And then, of course, I get a hold of Mort, and we get him all sorts of fixed up. And now he is actually up and available for adoption as well. So they've got a lot of wonderful dogs up for adoption. They've got Yeller, who is a lab, yellow, 18 months old. He was a dog at large, no collar or tags. He was actually found in the 600 block of Rupert. They just have a ton of animals that are looking for their forever home, anywhere from your little lap dog chihuahuas all the way up to your bigger boxers and, of course, your pit bulls. And so if you want to, adopt a dog, make sure that you can give it a forever home. Don't just adopt it for a year and give it away. You got to be able to. These dogs are like kids. It's like having a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, remember everybody out there in Radio Land that 8 out of 10 stray dogs prefer Ocean Spray cranberries.
They do, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But if you want to go and schedule a play date with any one of these dogs, or maybe you need some more information from Officer Mort, you can always give him a call at the animal shelter, 438-2200, or give him a call on his cell phone at 670-7268. And they are all still also looking for donations, towels, blankets, food, collars, things like that.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Officer Mort was not here. He was out in the hinterland rounding up more dogs to talk to you about, but Officer Jameson was there and on the case.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Where'd all these dogs come from anyway? Who let the dogs out? Minidoka Animal Control. Mort, Gina did a good job. Your job's in jeopardy. She's going to go get a net. Anyway, good morning, everybody, and let's see what else have we got. Oh, it's time to get the lovely Rita Ramsey on our program this morning, and she's going to be coming up to us in just a minute. I want to remind you that later on this morning at about 10:12, we're going to have Cassia County School Days, and we're going to have with us this morning, I'm trying to find his name again, Bob Withrow, and he is a Chef Boyardee type, and he's teaching the kids at Burley High School how to cook. And then at 10:30, Scott Whitlock is going to talk about the situation over in France with the jihad. So let's see if we have this lovely lady ready to go. Good morning, Rita Ramsey.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Very well, thank you.
Good. Did you have a good Christmas?
A wonderful Christmas and a wonderful New Year's, and here we are already almost to the middle of January 2015, and I hope you had a wonderful time with your family.
We did. We had a good visit and a wonderful day off, and the weather was kind of icky, but it was seasonal. Did you
go anywhere Christmas Eve?
Just out to my in-laws, so just across town, really.
Oh, the funny part, we went down to some friends that only lived just a bit away, and we were at their house for dinner, and all of a sudden, we visited and everything, opened the door, and it was like walking into another world, and it took me forever to go like a half a mile to get back to my place.
Tell you, when it's snowing and blowing like it was that night, it's enough to disorient anybody, and I'll tell you, I did not want to be on the road.
Absolutely. Rita, boy, this mess over in Paris is just another of a continuing saga of more messes every day around the world with Islamic Jihad. What are your thoughts about this? There are some that are pulling their horns in and not saying anything for fear of offending someone. I personally think that it should be called what it is. I think we should be very straightforward. We should point our fingers at who is causing the problem and be very discerning about correcting the problem. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that we here should look at that and say that's what's going to be here next. I can't remember who it was, and in the course of my listening and watching on TV and listening on radio yesterday all day, I heard a person talking about, and he was from France, he said that they had let all of these people come in, and they just let them settle. And the people said, we don't want to go by your laws, and they started intimidating them and everything. And so they started making Muslim communities of which their law people can't even go into anymore. And they've got all kinds of issues because these people have kind of taken over areas of their country. And of course, we've seen that happening in Dearborn, Michigan, and a few other places. But what's happening is it's kind of like, hey, this is our community. We're gonna take care of our own people. We'll enforce our own Sharia, and we'll take care of our people when they break the law and do other things. And consequently, the police or any law officials can't go in and do anything. And they've basically came and taken over the country. Well, the big problem with that is like with us, and we're up against an issue with the borders here of just letting anybody come when they want. And if they set up their own communities and they're going to do their own law enforcement or whatever and hold the regular law enforcement people out, they end up having control, and pretty soon they're way out of control. And I think this is what's happened with the Muslims is the ones who are, and maybe they mean well to come and set up their own communities and police their own people, but a lot of them, they get out of control and they start doing all kinds of stuff, and then they seek refuge back in their communities because they know law enforcement won't come in there. And that's where it's all is that the law of the land is not taking control and saying, this is the way we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, you leave. That's what Australia did, and that's the only way they could keep it under control, is say, you either assimilate and go by our laws and learn our language, or you're out of here.
Let me throw this at you. When you think of the United States over the 200 years plus, you've heard many, many people refer to it as a melting pot of cultures and personalities. I personally think the melting pot is gone. There is no melting into an assimilation of our culture. Everybody wants to come here without the melting pot aura, and they want to just basically say, we're going to set up our community, we're going to do it this way, we're going to impose our own laws and everything, and not assimilate with the culture and values of the United States of America. And that is what's the matter with this country, because we have stopped the melting pot and the assimilation.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The big problem is that when you have people come in here and they come in here without being here legal, they go, well, your ancestors came here. I bet you could just trace it right back and find out that they were immigrants and they were in here and da-da-da-da. That's exactly right. But what happens is we quit the discussion right there because we say, yes, you're right, instead of saying, you know what, they came here legally, they assimilated, they quit speaking their native language and they learned our language, and they decided that they were going to be Americans, and that's why it worked. And that melting thing is just like melting anything together. If you were thinking about soup, you'd melt stuff all together and make it to become one big thing. If you were melting metal, you'd have these various different kinds. You meld them together to make one thing that works and make it stronger because you've combined all of them together. We're not doing that anymore, and that's where we have the problems. And we're going to have this same thing with the Muslims happening here because we refuse to acknowledge that there are terrorists out there and they want to kill us, and they'll come and do whatever they want because it's just like I'm sure you watched O'Reilly last night, and I think it was O'Reilly, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was, I can't remember now. Anyway, Rudy Giuliani was talking about how they used to set people into the mosques and let them kind of see what was going on and oversee some of that stuff so that they could kind of keep an eye on what was happening. And this last mayor has quit doing that, and they won't let anybody go in there, so the mosques have become a refuge for terrorists, and everything, from soup to nuts can happen in there, and the law enforcement doesn't know anything about it, and they can't hunt anybody down because they don't go in there, and it's all of a sudden, we're just in here bothering you. And so, because we're afraid to do that, they're going to have the upper hand, and we're going to see more of this happening, and it's going to happen all over Europe, and then it will start happening here if we don't get a handle on it.
Rita, a lot of people are, I don't want to use the word naive in this case, but I think either misinformed or non-informed. It just came out from a very dear friend of mine, and I think you know her. Her name is Brigitte Gabriel. You've probably seen her on Hannity and O'Reilly. Her and I have known each other for quite a few years. She's been on my program numerous times. She just sent me this morning a awareness sheet, and listen to this headline. Dear Zeb, are you aware of what's going on with mothers of the jihad? And here is the headline. Horrifying. ISIS Guide for Jihadi Mothers surfaces online. And the first paragraph of this book or pamphlet says, this is a guide for jihadi mothers on how to raise children to become terrorists and how to kill. Isn't that a great attitude for mothers and their children?
I'll tell you something, that is really scary. I know that, I think it was last week or the week before, there was some information coming out showing that there were some of these, I call them airheads, and probably from America, that were going over there to be jihadi mothers, to raise babies, and we're going to raise them for ISIS so that they've got freedom soldiers that can come in and take their places as they grow up, and it's really sad because the children's first several years of their life, they take that example from their mother, and they learn everything that pretty much that they know from those that they're around. And if they're taught from the time they're little teeny tiny kids, that's exactly what they're going to be when they grow older. And it's a sad deal, because we're acting like it's probably not a big deal. You let them do their thing. We're going to do our thing.
Let me ask you this: whether it's at your place of business, or whether you're visiting with somebody at your church, or whether you visit with somebody at the post office, are you like me, thinking that freedom of expression and freedom of speech is something that we're becoming more tentative about every day?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You have to measure your words to make sure that you don't say something that will, quote unquote, offend somebody. And then it makes you wonder what kind of ramifications will come down the loop if you do say something, something wrong. I mean, I think of my mom and dad and their language, and I remember one time, and this has been several years ago, actually it was back in 2001, my mom went on a LDS mission to London, and she had never been around black people hardly at all, and she had sent an email to us telling us about this a particular person, and she said, he's a Negro. And my daughters just about hit the ceiling. She said, my one daughter said to me, Mom, did you know that Grandma called one of those black people in England a Negro? And I said, well, look up the word Negro and see what it says in the dictionary. The dictionary says black. So why you can't use those kind of words? But all of a sudden, we're not politically correct if you even say the word Negro.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Rita, I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't want to interrupt you, but what you touched on right there is something that's a very important point, and it needs to be addressed on a larger scale. There are 3 classifications of mankind: Caucasoid or Caucasian, Mongoloid, and Negroid. Those are facts. You can't change facts. Those are the 3 classifications of mankind. So why are we sheltering a word which distinguishes one facet of mankind? Why do we have to hide that?
Well, the only reason we have to is because there's a bunch of people who put up a big stink about it and all of a sudden made it so that it's nasty to say instead of just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. That's how these people do stuff, is they'll come in and say, well, let's attack this, and pretty soon you have all of these people going, oh, we can't say that, we can't say this, we can't say that, and they've got it, they've got it all. It's just like a virus that just shoots all over the world. And pretty soon you and I, who have always said it with no disrespect, are politically incorrect, and we shouldn't be saying that kind of
But
stuff.
isn't it also a misnomer, as I've said many times on this program, to call Barack Obama an African American, because he is not? He is of mulatto descent. In other words, his father being black, his mother being white. That's a mulatto. That is not African American. And besides that, there is no such thing as African American. If that were the case, then Gary Player, one of the world's outstanding golfers from Africa, and now has a residency here in the United States, he would be an African American. He's white.
That's absolutely right. We have this hyphenated thing instead of we're all Americans. I mean, okay, he's an American from Africa. Okay, fine. He's an American from Mexico. He's an American from, wherever. But instead, they always want to put American on the back burner and like it's less important. And so that comes after the important thing. Well, what I want to know is, if those people are African Americans, why don't they just go back to Africa or back to Mexico or wherever if it's so much better than America? Otherwise, say, you know what, I'm an American and I came from so-and-so.
Absolutely. And, the other part that really bothers me is like you mentioned, the hyphenated words African American, Spanish American, Japanese American. They all want it. Well, okay, I'm German American. My grandparents came over here from the old country. But this hyphenated is so ridiculous. If we're here assimilating into the melting pot of America, we're all Americans.
That's right. All that hyphen does is divide us.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of division, in the time remaining, I want to come back after I do the weather forecast, and I want to talk about a subject that has really wrinkled the fur on the back of my neck, and that's the re-election of John Boehner as Speaker of the House. You ready to talk about that?
Oh, am I?
Why should I ask? I'll get the weather and I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome, Suite B. Number to call, 324-2004. 324-2004. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. Absolutely. They've got a great facility over there in Jerome, and they treat everyday injuries and illnesses. So please call them, and remember, they will see you today. Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome, 324-2004. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hey everyone, Michael Rogers is at the ranch. Got some fog working for it today. Looks pretty thick too. You looking at the Prime Memorial Bridge. I can't see on the other side of it. The cloud's going to be around us for the next, I'm going to give you about 72 hours, right through Sunday. 40 for the high today, 29 for the overnight low. Now, the fog is just basically in the Magic Valley so far. If you head down toward Rogers and the Jackpot on US Highway 93 heading south, you'll come out of it as soon as you get on the other side of Rogerson. But right now, the fog is pretty thick, pretty dense. Looks a chance of snow possibly on Sunday night, rain and snow on Monday. But otherwise, be careful with the fog today. Enjoy the weather. Same weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Urgent Care of Jerome, serving you, whether you had possibly a little flu, ear infection, sprain, strain, or fracture. They're there to serve you every day. You better believe it. Minor emergency, major care. Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome, 324-2004. Rita kind of set this up a little bit. I was one of the people I called back to Louis Gohmert's office and some of the others, and I was really hoping and praying that some of the people that were going to run Yoho and some of the others against Boehner for Speaker of the House, I hoped they would have had a chance. There were some people that stood up and said, "I'll vote for you," but then they chickened out in the long run for fear of reprisal from Boehner and his mafia guys. What did you think about his re-election? I don't like the guy.
I feel like we have a dictator not only in the White House, but we have a dictator in the House of Representatives, and that's Boehner. When a representative can't vote the way that his constituents want him to vote for fear of losing any kind of committee appointments or anything like that, that means there's a dictator. They have had their First Amendment rights stripped away from them, and that's not right. I did hear this morning that there's been a lot of goings on behind closed doors yesterday and as well as this morning on what they're going to do, because there's going to be a lot of problems. If Boehner does take away those posts, there's a couple of them that he did say they're going to lose them and you're out of here, and this is why. And they're kind of reconsidering maybe they shouldn't do that because the American people have absolutely gone berserk over it. And that shows you and me that if people will start taking interest and calling into their Congress and their senators, they may listen. If we just sit back on our laurels and don't pay attention, they'll do whatever they want. But there has been so much opposition to this deal with them losing their seats because they voted the way their constituents wanted, that I think Boehner is starting to reconsider and saying, oh shoot, we've really stirred up a hornet's nest now. And so there may be some opportunities for these folks to keep their appointments, in the committees that they have been on. The big problem that I see is that enough people won't keep calling and hounding Congress like we need to, and that's what we need to be doing. They said that this was the biggest number of people voting against the speaker, sitting speaker in the GOP since Lincoln. So that means that this was historical.
Yeah. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I'm sick and tired of the McConnells. I'm absolutely sickened to my stomach with the John McCains and the Boehners and the Jeb Bushes. Now, that brings up another subject altogether, but it's the same old, same old. I do not want, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rita, I'll certainly respect your opinion. I don't want somebody during the day from 8 till 5 at the halls of Congress to denounce somebody and really criticize them on camera, and then the minute 5 o'clock comes along, sit out and back at a little pub on Washington, D.C.'s Boulevard and have a beer with the other side and say they're good old boys. I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, no, that's what the big problem is with politics, is you've got all of these people who think that because, okay, I started out as dog catcher, and then I went on the school board, and then I went on to the city council, and then I went on to mayor, and then I went on to this and that and the other, and all of a sudden it's expected that I will be on the House of Representatives or something because I worked my way up and I am entitled to that. That's not the way we do things in America, but that's the way things go. Is you've got all these people who think, well, I'm just doing one stair step after the other and I'm entitled to it, instead of saying, this is my goal and that's what I want to do, but I realize that I have to have the voice of the people behind me before I can do it. That's not the way it is. It's like, well, we're just going to have all these appointments and everybody's going to get this, and we don't have to go through the voters and see what they think.
We've got a caller with a question. Quickly, caller, I'm down to the last 3 minutes. Go.
Yes, what's so amazing to me about Boehner is that Mia Love, freshman congressman from Utah, Trey Gowdy, who we thought was a stud, Labrador, Jason Chaffetz from Utah that, I'm always talking up how good he is, and of course Mr. Simpson, they all voted for Mr. Boehner. And then you say to yourself, well, why? And I've been trying to get through and try to get through to these congressmen and ask them why they did what they did, and maybe talk to somebody live and then find out, but I haven't been able to get through. Every time I try, now I don't just sit there waiting, but Monday I tried to get through and I haven't been able to get through yet. Now I'm busy, but it's amazing that they voted for him, and I'll hang up.
All right, thank you. Rita, I'm down to the final minute. Go ahead and give us a summation on that, please.
Well, I can understand totally why they were afraid to do it. It makes me really, really furious to think that they know there's a whole bunch of other people that were elected brand new, and if they got enough people on board with them that had the cojones to sit up and say, you know what, we're not going to do business as usual, that they could do it because they had other people that were in their ball court to do that. There was one guy, and his name is Chris Stewart, and he's a congressman from Utah, and I heard him being interviewed, and they were really coming down hard on him as why he was going to go ahead and vote for Boehner. And he said, I'll tell you what, He said, I understand that I should be voting probably with these other people. But he said, we have a list of things that we're going to do. And he started counting off, and he got down to about 12 different things that he said, we have to accomplish this. And in order to accomplish it, we have got to be on Boehner's side so that we can bring these things to vote and to committee to make them happen. And he said, if I haven't gone through all 12 of these and tried to make these happen within X amount of time, then you can come down on me again. But he said, that's the defense that I have. So it makes you wonder if it's like, okay, we've got a different strategy and we're going to try to do it. But I just still can't understand why it's hard for people to say what's right is right, and I'm going to do what's right.
Right, real quick. Now, Rita, I've only got 30 seconds. Tea Party, tell us what's going on.
We have our Tea Party meeting tonight. It'll be at the City of Burley at 7 o'clock. We are focusing on Agenda 21 and on Common Core. We're trying to see if we can get stuff together so that we can go up to the State House and voice our opposition to the Common Core and see about getting it repealed or replaced. So
all right.
We need to have everybody show up, and it will be a learning thing that we've got and a planning thing.
Rita Ramsey, thank you. Excellent conversation this morning. Thank you very, very much. God bless, and have a good week. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Nice lady right there, Rita Ramsey. You know what? This time of the morning, we get up, like I said, at 4 o'clock, and I have a little bowl of cereal. And about mid-morning, like right now, I am hungry and starving to death. And I'm going to tell you about some great places to go if you're hungry like I am and starving to death. Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. Oh, the Southern baked burrito, either soft shell or grilled shell. It is good, good, good. Chicken or steak made a special way that just Kip knows how. He's the only man in the universe that knows how to make those. And then also check out the Bandito burritos and the taco salad burritos. Oh, the food's always good. Great place. Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland Avenue in Burley. Well, how about Burgers Etc.? 2 locations, 124 South Oneida in Rupert and 700 North Overland in Burley. Corn dogs and burritos, only 99 cents after 3 p.m. And bread bowl soup. Oh, that's so good. Monday through Friday, different flavor every day. Like I said, 2 locations to serve you of Burgers Etc. on Oneida and Rupert and Overland in Burley. How about we go over to Steve-O's? Oh, my goodness sakes, 290 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Food made the way you like it. And fresh, hand-cut French fries, steak fries, regular fries. Oh, so good. And they've got the friendliest servers, and you got to try that steak sandwich or the pork chops with salad and choice of potatoes. Oh my, you're going to love Steve-O's. 290 South, 600 west of Hayburn. And Duck Ugly. Yes, sirree, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley, right next to Berry Equipment and Rental. They don't do fast food. They do good food as fast as they can. I'll tell you what, it's delicious. Great, delicious menu. Ribeye steak, knock your boots off. New York steak, shrimp, salmon, battered cod. Oh, my goodness, Friday night at 7 p.m. This week they're going to have the singing duo of Barton and Bowler. And then on Saturday, they're going to have the Nitty Gritty Band starting at 7 p.m. Oh, my, you don't want to miss all the fun and all the great food at Duck Ugly's. And then, don't forget AC Drive-In. Oh, 601 East Main in Burley. I'm drooling. They've got the kids' basket, either chicken chunks or hamburger and cheeseburger with pickles and ketchup and small fry, only $3.50. Wow! And combo meals and the famous Farmer Brown burgers and the pumpkin and eggnog shakes. Oh my, run, don't walk. Get over there right now. AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. And those are just a few great places to go if you're hungry and starving to death. And I know one lady over at our studio that is sitting there going and chomping on her fingers right now, right, Gina?
I'm starving.
Tomorrow morning I got to go in for some medical tests, and I'm not supposed to have anything to eat from midnight on or anything. And so I will guarantee you at about mid-morning tomorrow, I'm going to raise the flag of surrender and go have the biggest breakfast I can find.
So your tests are early in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So right after that, then you can go and have the biggest breakfast you can find?
Look out.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got a lot of things coming up next hour. We've got the Cassia County School Days. We've got Scott Whitlock. A lot of things left right here at Zeb at the Ranch. We're going to take about 6 minutes and listen to CBS News and find out what's happening worldwide, and we'll be right back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Thursday, foggy Thursday. Drive carefully out there. We'll see you in about 6 minutes. Oh, look out there. It is foggy. And drive carefully, please. Don't speed. Don't overdrive your headlights. Please be careful. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Thank you very much. Let's see, what have we got cooking here real quick? Oh, I want to also remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. And every day they have a special that we mention along with their other great menu choices. And today at the Chadwick Sports Grill, they're going to have beef skewers. I love saying that. Beef skewers with vegetables, choice of potato and super salad. Going to be delicious, always is. Great people, wonderful environment at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Let's see, what else have I got cooking? Gina, I got a question for you. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
Total 5.
5. And are you the youngest, oldest, in between? What's the deal?
Actually, my brother is the oldest. Sean is the oldest. I'm the second oldest. And then we have a half-brother or a half-sister and then 2 half-brothers that are younger than we are. Oh, and then we have an adopted brother, so 6.
Okay, now, has there been any animosity between you and the other siblings, or is there jealousy because one maybe went on and did something really successful or like you, that type of thing?
No, I don't think so.
Well, there was a story in the paper, and I wanted you to relate to this a little bit. They said that, and these are the people that want everybody to make the same amount of money. You know, no more wealth gaps. They want everybody making the same so there's no arguing or bickering.
Right.
There was a story in the paper that was written by the Associated Press, Bernard Condon, and the whole story is wealth equity and wealth fairness. He said in his article, it's not fair for one brother to go out and make millions and the sisters and his other brothers are jealous because they didn't do it, and that's not fair.
You know, I read that story, and, you know, kudos to the man who actually worked the 3 jobs, put himself through school, and is doing successful. Now, because I read that story, the older brother offered to send his little sister to school, and she refused. And so now that she is not living off of his wealth, even though he offered her, hey, I'll pay for your college, but you've got to go to college, now she's kind of miffed, and that has kind of created a rift between those two. I think that is just a sibling jealousy. As far as my family is concerned, honestly, my adopted brother is way more successful than any one of us, and do we have any animosity towards that? Oh, heck no.
Yeah, but the thing is, Gina, in today's age of where they want everybody to make the same, they want everybody to sit in and fit into the same pigeonhole. I'm glad you read the article. It absolutely sickened me that there should be any feeling of animus from somebody that didn't put forth the effort to go out and make something out of their life. You know, we all have, and I honestly believe this, we all have certain talents and gifts that were given to us by God, and if we don't utilize them and use it to our best advantage, who do we blame but ourselves?
Exactly. There is nobody that we can blame except for ourselves. And so for the brother who offered his sister, hey, I will pay for your college, and she said no, and now she's all mad at him because he's, flying all over the place and taking all of these vacations and all of this liquid cash. That is not his fault, because he is the one that worked hard for it.
And as far as making him feel obligated or making him feel embarrassed because of what he's made, what he's achieved, and what he's earned into, oh, well, why don't you share it with your siblings? That's the problem with society today. Those that don't want to work expect to get a free ride.
And that just goes to show the immaturity and the lack of accountability that these people have for themselves.
Amen. I'm so glad you read that article, because when I read that, in my own family, I've seen this with some of the cousins and some of the other siblings. Somebody goes and makes it really good on their own, and all of a sudden it's, oh, gee, how come I don't have any?
Well, it's because you didn't work hard.
That's right.
Enough for it. Speaking of working hard, we've got Cache County Schools on the phone ready for you.
Okay, we're ready. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cache County School Days, and it's brought to you by some wonderful people. First of all, A Child's World, and we thank them very much, and they're located at 1308 Overland in Burley, and right now they're having a winter sale of 30% off winter clothes and shoes. And by the way, if you're looking for a baby present, they've got all the baby material right there at A Child's World. And also, they've got the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs and shoes. Stop in to A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And by the way, too, if you're needing some surgery, whether it might be hand surgery or colonoscopy or arthroscopic surgery on your knee, whatever, please call the Ambulatory Surgery Center, and their number is 677-8888. They're located at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Wonderful, wonderful people, and they can save you money. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cache County. And we have with us on the program this morning a real live Chef Boyardee. He is the Burley High School foods and nutrition teacher, Bob Withrow. Bob, good morning to you. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Good morning to you.
Bob, whatever possessed you years ago to look in the mirror and say, I want to be a cook?
It came to me after I became a teacher. I had some industry experience, and it was a place that I fit, and it worked out well, and it's been great fun.
Now, this class that you're teaching at Burley High School, the foods and nutrition teacher, tell us a little bit about the background of this class and give us a little history on how it got started and what you do.
Well, it's always been, family consumer science has always been there, which is what I'm endorsed in. Because of my industry experience, I started using ProStart, which comes from the National Restaurant Association, and it's actually an industry curriculum, and if students choose, they can go on and earn a certificate, which will help them, not so much in Idaho because it's not supported real well, but in all the surrounding states, that's recognized by all the employers in the industry, and they'll at least get an interview certificate.
Now,
really for me, it's job skills.
I see. Now, when you teach this class, I understand that the guys are really liking this class, and they come in and they're wearing smocks and everything else, according to what Debbie Critchfield had sent me. But now, how do you discern what kind of a menu they're going to learn or what kind of a dish they're going to cook? How do you make this up every day?
I try to teach a variety of techniques and a variety of foods. And as far as what we cook, it has a lot to do with what's on sale at the grocery store this week.
Oh. Okay, so now I was going to ask you about that as far as funding is concerned. Does the school or do the students or do you, the teacher, or do you have an outside sponsor sponsor the food? Because that's got to get a little expensive, doesn't it?
It's very expensive. The students pay a small fee. I get a little bit of added cost funding from the state of Idaho, and we also do a little bit of catering as classes, and the money that we make from that goes back into the program as well. So it's just I do what I can with what I have, and so far, we've been fortunate to be able to do a whole lot.
Okay, now here we go. It's Thursday, and what are you going to have them cook today? What's on the menu?
Right now, they're in the kitchens, and they're working on a homemade biscuit, sausage gravy, and also a cheese omelet.
Now, what about the finished product? Are you like the guy on TV, and I can't think of his name all of a sudden, are you going to yell and scream at them and throw their food production out the window or down the drain, or what's going to happen here?
Oh gosh, no. I will watch for proper techniques. I will occasionally taste if they ask me to, but usually they sit down and eat the food they cook, so they're their own best judge of what's good and what's not. Very often, food gets delivered around the building to other teachers, other students, to building staff, and so the feedback from everyone is always positive.
Now, when you have students that are in this class, and I know I would be dangerous in this class, you tell me to go cook something at 350 degrees, I'll probably burn the school down. But, are most of these students fairly adept at what they're going to do, or do you have some that just are tough learners?
No, I mean, it's just about training and then supervision and follow through, and I watch, and for the most part, these are great kids we have here, and they get it, and they do a great job every day.
Now, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had anybody cook in this class?
I don't know that any food is hard. I think there are some skills that are tough, especially for teenagers, and patience probably is the toughest. To just take the time and wait for things to happen in the oven or in the pot, because they want to be stirring, they want to be looking, and sometimes you just have to wait for it.
Okay, now when these kids all come in, how many kids are there usually to a class?
I have some classes with 30 students.
Wow! How do you make allowances for time and baking and or cooking of the product with that many kids in the class?
We just do. We make it work. There are certain things, obviously, we cannot bake bread in 90 minutes, but, there are some things I can make pizza, or the kids can. And so the things that we can do, we do. Sometimes we have to adjust recipes a little bit, and, like I say, we work within our limitations, and I think the kids do a fantastic job. I really do.
What about the range of personalities? I mean, are some of these kids, when they took the class, they just took it to basically think they were going to get a free ride and have some fun? Or do you get some of these kids that really want to get into this food service type thing for a living? I mean, tell us about the range of attitudes and personalities.
Like any high school class, I probably have a little bit of everything. I do have students interested in the business. I have students who are definitely interested in eating, which they get to do a fair amount of. I have students who just really like having a class that they can go in and put their hands on things and be busy. And, I think I'm fortunate that most kids, after a few weeks here, regardless of why they came, really like being here.
Now, what about their parents? I mean, have you had a lot of feedback from their parents like, my goodness, what did you do to my son Johnny? He knows how to make food.
I get that occasionally. I have some good conversations at student-led conferences, and part of the way they make up work is by cooking at home, and they have to bring a picture and a note of that, and so I get some great feedback from families that way as well.
Now, when you go into the class, do you give them kind of a preordained menu that you want them to cook, or do you at sometimes during the course of the class say, okay, you're on your own, today is your own little invention, go ahead?
I do that particularly with exams. We have, next week is finals, and for my beginning students, they'll have a small box of ingredients, and they'll cook those. My advanced classes will have a little tighter menu, a little bit more of a challenge, and they'll have recipes that they'll have to prepare. And this Scritchfield is hopefully rounding us up some judges from the community to come in and take a look at that food.
All right. Now, I was going to go back to these cooking shows you see on TV and some of the irate teachers and everything else. How realistic really are those cooking shows where they teach people to be chefs at major restaurants?
I am not a chef by trade. I have spent a lot of time in the industry and certainly worked with a lot of chefs. And as with any industry, with any business, you have people who manage by yelling and screaming, and you have people who are a little more subtle. And I have seen chefs who do a lot of yelling, and I've seen other chefs who were very quiet, very unassuming, but were nevertheless the leader and the authority in the kitchen.
You know, I've got another question I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to take some extra time here for a minute. Today, it seems like the government is obsessed with telling us what we can eat and we can't eat. Do you envision the day the government's going to have complete control over restaurants and chefs, or are we basically, if we stand up to them, we can tell them to take a long walk off a short pier?
You know, I don't even know how to answer that. I go to the grocery store and I see plenty of products available. It's certainly not something that I've ever seen or heard anybody in the industry who's concerned about that.
Okay. I want to wish you a lot of success, because I'll guarantee you if I was in high school right now, I wouldn't mind taking your class at all. It'd be a lot of fun. Bob Withrow, the high school foods and nutrition teacher at Burley High School, God bless you, man. Come back. And if you ever need a judge, I'll throw my name in the hat.
Talk to Mrs. Critchfield, because we certainly do next week.
Okay. Thank you for being on the program this morning.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. One thing I want to say, too, is that I was handed a note that tomorrow night, Friday night, is going to be the Danny Morona competition at the King Fine Arts Center in Burley at 7 p.m. Now, this is a regional competition for young people, and winners receive significant scholarship opportunities and then move on to compete at the final competition in the spring in Twin Falls. So once again, don't forget about that. I know that Galen Smyer and the rest of the crew over there in Cache County wants me to remind you to be there and really help celebrate this event tomorrow night. Friday night, Danny Morona competition at the King Fine Arts Center in Burley starting at 7 p.m. And that's School Days in Cache County, brought to you by our friends A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley and Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Thank you very much. Woo! Busy time this morning, and let's check in with Gina. Gina, do we have either Sean or Mandy?
Calling now.
You're calling now, all right? While you're doing that, I'll tell everybody about, did you hear that? Can you hear that? Or do you have to turn the TV up really loud to hear the news? Well, maybe you'd better make an appointment at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Now, the number to call for a hearing test, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. You don't want to be missing everything. You don't want to be going, huh? You get your hearing checked. And it's absolutely the best with Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, waiting to serve you. 312-0957. On the phone, and let's see who we have. Enter and sign in, please.
Hold on, I'm getting Mandy on the phone.
Oh, Mandy's coming on the phone from Valleywide Home and Ranch. We'll get her all on here in just a second.
Got it.
Mandy, how are you?
I am great, Zeb. How are you?
You know, this is the only store in Magic Valley where they play the Barry Manilow hit Mandy 24/7 while you're at work.
I would go insane.
How you doing, kid?
We are doing good here, trying to keep up with all this fog out here today.
It's really bad, and we've been warning everybody to drive careful. But, Mandy, a lot of people don't realize that Valleywide Home and Ranch, real heavy into fishing equipment. Tell us about it.
We do. Our whole upstairs is all dedicated to our fishing department. We also have stuff for ice fishing. If anybody is out and into ice fishing, we have stuff for them.
Okay. Now,
and you can also come and get all of your fishing and hunting license from us, too.
Okay. Now, you say that upstairs department, you've got all the reels and the rods, and you've got the fishing line and the lures and everything, but you're also going to give them one thing more. You said something to me about they'll receive a 10% off card that they can use for the rest of the year if they mention my name.
Absolutely. If they come in the store and mention they heard this ad on the radio, that we'll give them a 10% off coupon they can use throughout the whole year on all of our fishing and hunting gear.
Holy smokes. Now, you have tried and tested all the fishing equipment. You've been out to the riverbank and you've tried it all, right?
Absolutely. I
Atta
love
girl.
to fish.
Now, also, the fishing and hunting licenses. A lot of people aren't aware. You mentioned it just a minute ago, but they can stop in and just quickly get their license and head for the riverbank, can't they?
Absolutely. Stop in, get your license. We'll give you your 10% off coupon. Head you upstairs, get all your gear ready, and then point you towards the Minidoka Dam.
I like that. And the weather may have taken on a little bit of a warmer trend, but I can guarantee you that we always get kind of a January thaw, and people are going to be scrambling trying to get some warm clothing. How's the jackets and the vests and everything over at Valleywide?
We just put in a whole new order for the first of the year to get replenished because we had a huge Christmas sale. So we are getting replenished with jackets, coats, bibs. We have muck boots here for your feet to keep them warm, and we also have Carhartt socks.
Oh, I've got a couple of pair of Carhartt socks. They are absolutely the best. And by the way, when we were over there for the Christmas remote, what about the boot situation?
We have tons of boots. We carry air-yacht boots for men and women. We carry, in the men's air-yacht boots, we have the Work Hog boots. And so if we don't have what you are looking for, if you'll get with me, I will order in what you need.
And you know the thing is, Valleywide Home and Ranch, for all your livestock needs, man, I don't know who does the inventory over there, but that's got to be quite a job. Whether it's livestock handling equipment, whether it's the feed, whether it's the horse and tack department, basically you've got everything for all livestock operations.
Absolutely. And like I said, if we don't have what you are looking for, get with one of us, and we will definitely do what we can to get it for you.
Okay. Now, does everybody know where you are?
We are at 910 South Oneida Street in Rupert. Right when you come in Rupert, we're on your right-hand side.
And all they have to do while they're driving through the fog is look for your great big bright smile, and it'll be a light to shine them in the parking lot.
Absolutely.
Mandy, thank you so much, and we'll send everybody over to Valleywide. Thank you for being on the program this morning.
You are welcome. You guys have a great day.
All right, God bless. One of the real nice people over at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, and that's Mandy, and we thank her for coming on our program this morning. I got to get Gina back on here for a quick second. Gina, are you there? You remember they made such a big to-do over the Idaho Predator Derby? Remember all the environmentalists and all the animal rights activists? They were so upset about having a Predator Derby. You know how many wolves they ended up shooting?
None.
I think they did get, 30 coyotes and no wolves, unfortunately. The wolves are getting pretty cagey, and unfortunately we've got to do something to manage them. And it said in this newspaper article, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management issued the group a permit to use BLM lands, but revoked it, and they ended up having the Derby on private lands and private ranches.
Yeah, but still about 300,000, or what? No, is that 3 million acres?
Yeah, but you know something? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that we're being overrun. Like, look at Minnesota and Wisconsin. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of wolves, and they've got a major problem back there. And the same is going to happen here.
Yes, it will. So we have to be able to manage our numbers responsibly and effectively, and that's what we're trying to do. It's just that the environmentalists don't think that, they're just so cute. They're not going to harm anything.
And, the environmentalists, sometimes they shoot themselves in their own foot. Now, let me tell you what happened this morning. We originally were going to have somebody on to talk about the sage grouse that is of the environmental bent back in Washington, D.C., and I was really good. I was very polite to him, invited him on the program and everything, and this morning he called back and said he's decided not to do it. Well, why in the world would they want to send me the notice, which they did a week and a half ago, and ask me to call and ask him on the program, but then all of a sudden they say, oh, well, I've decided not to do it.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I'm going to send it back over to you. We're going to take a little hiatus. By the way, have you had any reports about this fog breaking up, or is this really thick all over the valley?
It's still actually pretty thick. It's starting to lift right now. They say probably right around noon it should lift, and we might be able to see some sun.
I hope so. Yeah. We'll take it back in about 3 minutes. Stay tuned, Zeb at the Ranch.
And now, Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much and welcome back. Once again, kind of a fog warning out there. If you're driving anywhere, be careful. It is really thick pea soup out there this morning. And I can't even see the back fence on my property here this morning. And be careful, please. Very, very foggy conditions. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and I want to thank this man, senior news analyst with Media Research Center. Scott Whitlock is on the phone with us, and we're going to be talking to him. Scott, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
You know, Scott, I'm just going to say this and be very blunt. I'm not at all concerned with the mindset of Muslims and Islam in general, but when any of them shout Allah Akbar and kill and maim and hurt people, I want them denounced and I want hard justice served. What are your thoughts about what I just said versus what took place in France yesterday?
Well, I think what you're talking about yesterday is a lot of what we've seen in the media where they're so cautious to say, well, we don't know, and we're still trying to figure this out. And you can respect that as you have breaking news unfolding. But when like you said, when you have someone yelling Allah Akbar, it's probably not too hard to figure out who the perpetrators behind it might be.
Well, Scott, you're the expert on this. Why? And I really want to get to the crux of this matter because we've heard the president, ever since he's been in office for over 6 years, shy away and literally run from calling it what it is, Islamic extremism or Muslim extremism or Muslim terrorists. Why? Let's call it what it is. What's the reason for the shying away?
It's just one of those weird political correctness things that you see with liberals, particularly liberals in the media, where for other religions, such as Islam, they are very, very cautious about using the phrase Islamic extremism and explaining to their viewers the threat of it. But when you have Christians, conservatives, or other groups that they aren't as fond of, they have no problem doing that. One thing I'd like to remind your viewers of, a few years ago, back in 2012, when you had that shooting in Colorado, you had Brian Ross from ABC News go on TV with almost no information and say that there was a Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado, who was part of the Tea Party. And of course, as we all know, that ended up being wrong, and that person that he slimed had nothing to do with the shooting, but they had no problem quickly going off half-cocked and trying to smear the Tea Party. And what we're seeing today and yesterday is much more an abundance of caution that they would not give in other examples.
Scott, let me ask you this. Do you think that through your position as a senior news analyst that the media today is more cautious or less cautious about how they report the news? And I'll give you an example so I'm not being unfair to you. I have in my hand two headlines that came out from two conflicting newspaper reports. One says, Paris shooting suspects arrested. And the other says, one suspect surrenders and the other two are at large. Both of these came out within 15 minutes of each other.
Well, I think when, what you're seeing is in the first 24 to 48 hours of breaking news story, you're going to see a lot of conflicting information, and they're going to get some things wrong. But in this case, some of the examples what we're seeing on the New York Times and MSNBC is simply that they are willing to or more interested in worrying about how this is going to affect Muslims rather than worrying about how, what Islamic extremism is doing to the world.
Absolutely.
So the New York Times on the front page today, they run a headline in a story, "Dangerous Moment for Europe as Fear and Resentment Grow." And it's essentially about, well, is this going to result in the extreme right going after Muslims and violence against Muslims, and I wrote about that yesterday. MSNBC did that too, where they brought someone on who talked about the extreme right in Europe and the threat that Muslims are going to face from them. So that's what you're seeing. It is a caution and a worry about what's going to happen to Muslims, and not so much worrying about the threat of Islamic extremism.
It's interesting that your piece came out on the Daily Beast foreign editor, Christopher Dickey, because as I was going through the different channels trying to upgrade my knowledge on what had taken place over in Paris, I stopped, and I don't stay there very long because I don't like the network, MSNBC, and I saw exactly this interview that you referred to. And why is it, though, that Islam and Muslims are basically catered to in the media more so than Christians or Jews? I mean, it's okay to condemn Christians. It's okay to go out and condemn Jews. I guess it's because they feel that there won't be any retribution. Give me your thoughts.
It is sometimes hard to find an answer for that, because if you look at the face of Islamic extremism, you see that it is not sympathetic to other religions. It's not even sympathetic to different types of Islam, the way they treat women, the way they treat homosexuals, all these groups that you would think that liberalism and liberals, especially in the media, say that they would like to defend, feminists, gays. They are treated terribly under Islamic extremism. So it is baffling as to why they react that way. It's hard to say, but I think part of it comes from a liberal mindset that, we are more broad-minded and we are more tolerant than the majority of America, which, much of America is Christian. So if that's the dominant faith, then they're going to show that they are tolerant and open-minded towards, these different types of perspectives, not really considering the fact that Islamic extremism is never tolerant towards them, or would never be tolerant towards gays or feminists, etc.
Let me ask you this, Scott, and I've been trying to do as much perusal on this since I got up this morning to get ready for this morning's program, and I haven't really found anything concrete as far as other Islamic nations and countries condemning this, outright condemning this action and attitude. Don't you think that they basically exacerbate the problem because they don't come out in condemnation for these acts?
Well, I think a lot of times what you'll see in the media is they don't require that. They don't bring that exact point up. So then it's kind of an echo chamber where you don't see a lot of people in the media calling Islam out on that and making that exact point. So then you don't see it, and then just sort of reverberates. In fact, what you see is the opposite, where you have MSNBC, which constantly will go out of its way to say, this has nothing to do with Islam, etc. And as you pointed out, when someone's yelling Allah Akbar, that's a hard point to make. Now, you can differentiate, and we should, between Islamic extremism and Islam, but to try and say that that there is no connection is kind of silly. But journalists simply aren't making your point. They're not going out and saying, we need more people calling out Islam and saying you need to stand up against this.
Let me ask you this, Scott, and again, with your expertise and knowledge on this, you'd have a far better insight than I would. I would imagine that as of this morning, right now, all across the world, that there are numerous journalists that when they sat down at their typewriter or their computer or their drawing board for a cartoon, there's an inhibition there this morning that possibly wasn't there yesterday because of what happened. There's a fear factor about offending somebody for the likes of what happened in Paris, France. Would you agree with me?
Sadly, yeah, and that's one of the things we've been tracking over yesterday and today is, one issue is who is going to show the cartoons that Charlie Hebron, that they were running in their newspapers, and who is not. Now, you can argue that they're offensive, and obviously this newspaper has printed offensive things. It printed offensive things towards Christians, but to give your viewers and readers kind of an idea of what we're talking about, you think that some of these outlets need to to show them. So ABC, we looked, and ABC did not. NBC and Univision did not. CBS did. CBS showed the cartoons yesterday in the evening newscast, and again today. CNN and Fox have kind of given contradictory answers about that. CNN and Fox both showed them early in the day yesterday and then announced that they wouldn't. So, it seems a little unclear as to what ultimately is going to be their position on that. But, clearly there is a hesitation in a lot of, artists, cartoonists, newspapers and the network news now that there's a fear, and we've seen that before. If you remember, South Park was going to do an episode featuring the Prophet Muhammad, and they had to heavily censor it because Viacom, which owns Comedy Central, essentially was afraid of being blown up.
One of the things I thought was interesting since yesterday, and again I kept kind of a figure on the numbers, there were many people that were news analysts and many that were hosts of various programs on various networks, and they went out of their way to say that free speech and the espousing of free speech and utilizing free speech would never die, and that this would never ever slow it down. I think the opposite. I think in all honesty, there is a fear factor, Scott, that has got a lot of people intimidated, and the terrorists are winning every time they do something like this.
Yeah, sadly, that I think you're probably right about that, because a lot of outlets, it's just they look at it and essentially do the math, and they decide that fear is an easier, path to follow, because if you don't, then you might provoke someone to do, something like what happened yesterday in France. Of course, unfortunately, the kind of end result of that is a censorship that doesn't allow for free speech. And we had USA Today published an op-ed by this radical cleric in London who essentially said, we don't believe in free speech. And it's kind of ironic that he was using freedom of speech to say that we don't believe in free speech, but that is the case. Is they don't. And when you have media outlets kind of following that fear, you have a self-censorship that leads to a lessening of our freedom.
You must cringe when you watch one of those presidential, the Office of the President Josh Earnest as spokesman news conferences, when he gets up there and he will avoid any use of any certain terminology and whitewash the issue. What is the matter with our media today that they can't be more pugnacious and stick their chin out and ask direct questions? Why are they so afraid?
Well, that's a great question, and you bring up a great point, because we actually wrote about that yesterday, how, speaking of being afraid or just in general kind of not doing their job, President Obama has made quotes that seem to indicate that he was more on the side of people who support the self-censorship argument. For instance, in a 2012 speech to the United Nations, he said the future does not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. And so you would think, as you pointed out, that, in light of what's been happening, journalists would bring that up and say, and press Earnest on that, and press the White House on that to kind of clarify what they need on that and where they're standing of freedom of expression. Another quote: "Our universal belief in freedom of expression is something that can't be silenced because of the senseless violence of a few." So he's kind of gone back and forth on that, and you would think that journalists would want some sort of clarification from him and the White House.
I've really enjoyed having you on. I think this is the first time, Scott, or maybe I'm wrong, but I wish you God's blessings and say thank you. And please come back in the future and talk to us again. The senior news analyst for the Media Research Center, Scott Whitlock. Thank you, sir, very much for your information.
Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet, sir. Thank you very much. Interesting about the news media, and basically underneath everything, there's still a little, I would say, bone of cowardice, because they won't hold, like Josh Earnest, or even the president, their feet to the fire and get direct answers. I don't understand why. Hey, it's time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, my. Custom meat processing. My goodness. Beef, pork, lamb, wild game. Scarrows Meats, locally owned custom meat processor. They've been serving Southern Idaho for over 20 years. Everything they sell is guaranteed, and they sell taste one bite at a time. Don Scarrow and the rest of the folks serving you at Scarrows Meats. And right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hey everyone, Michael Rogers is at the ranch. Got some fog working for it today. Looks pretty thick too. You're looking at the Parai Memorial Bridge. I can't see on the other side of it. The cloud's going to be around us for the next, I'm going to give you about 72 hours right through Sunday. 40 for the high today, 29 for the overnight low. Now, the fog is just basically in the Magic Valley so far. If you head down toward Rogerson at Jackpot at US Highway 93 heading south, you'll come out of it as soon as you get on the other side of Rogerson. But right now, the fog is pretty thick, pretty dense. Puts a chance of snow possibly on Sunday night, rain and snow on Monday. But otherwise, be careful with the fog today. Enjoy the weather, so whether you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the whole crew over there at 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are selling taste one bite at a time. Call them, 324-7657. Thank you for sponsoring Michael Rogers Weather. Oh, my. You know, I don't have anything scheduled for the next 10 minutes, and so what I thought we'd do is kind of open it up for an open forum. Give me a call. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. And, Gina, do you have any outstanding subjects you want to bring up in the time remaining this morning? I'll even give the floor to you, my dear.
Giving me the floor. Actually, I was talking to Officer Ken Mort, of course, at the top of the hour. And there seems to be an issue with people going out and dumping off dogs and puppy litters into the country.
We've had a bunch over here, a bunch.
Yeah, today he's picking up a total, a litter of 7, and then another 4 dogs that had been dumped out into the country. That's just today alone.
You know, something that irritates me, and I mentioned this to you once before, and it wasn't that long ago, before, I think, Thanksgiving. Deanna and I are headed home, and we look off into the barrel pit, and there is a mother and all the little puppies just laying in the barrel pit. And how can any human being be that heartless, that cruel, and that idiotic to just leave those little puppies and the mother dog in a barrel pit in the cold weather? And I would just love to have 5 minutes alone in a room with those people.
Well, I know, and here's the thing, you know, if you've got dogs that you can't handle, take them to one of the shelters, take them to a rescue. Don't just dump a domesticated dog out there in the middle of the desert. They don't know what they're going to do, and they are going to die. So I am a complete animal lover, and that is just one thing that ultimately gets under my skin. And so for people who don't take care of their pets, or they think that it's just the best thing to go and dump them out into the desert, maybe you should spend a couple days out in the desert.
You know, and Deanne is as easy a going person as you'd ever want to meet, but I never will forget the night that we looked out the front window, and someone had dropped off a black Labrador mom and her pup, and right in the middle of Highway 30.
You're kidding.
Yeah, and there was the mother sitting there in the middle of the road with the pup next to her in Highway 30. And we had heard the car speed away, and we hurried out the door as fast as we could. And I don't mean to sound very morbid about this, but before we could get out and get the mother dog, and she was just sitting there waiting. I think she expected whoever dropped her off to come back and get her. And a truck came by and killed both of them. And I mean, my anger and my angst was so bad that, like Mr. T used to say, pity the fool. That's what I thought, pity the fool if I get my hands on him.
Yeah. And so there is no reason for that. And so, you know, I realize that the times are tough for some people, and you might have a pet. Give it to somebody who cares. Take it to one of the local animal shelters. You know, it might cost you like $40, but you know what? That is a fee that is well worth it,
Yeah.
knowing that your family pet is going to be well taken care of by somebody else. And by no means, if you think that it's okay for you to go out into the desert and dump off multiple dogs, a litter of puppies, then shame on you, because there's a special place in hell for you.
Well, and not only the desert, but I mean rural areas in general, whether it's a farm or a ranch. Why do they think that we can take care of them? Why do they think it's not going to be an adverse situation for us? Why do they think that the dogs aren't going to get killed, maimed, or injured? I mean, there's no thinking right there.
No, bottom line, they don't care. They don't care about the animal that they brought into their lives that looks at them as mom and dad and is going to be loyal to them and love them.
You know what? I don't know what the laws read as far as the crime or penalty if you're caught doing that, but I would suggest if anybody gets the license number and they can trace it, absolutely nail these people to a cross, basically, in court system, because they need to be really arrested and go through the court system. Is it a felony or not?
I do believe it's a felony. Don't quote on me. I would have to ask Officer Mort, but I do know that it is illegal to be dumping your animals out into the desert. You know, not only morally and ethically, but I think legally it is illegal.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly what the crime is, though.
There is nothing, and here I am, supposedly, you know, the big tough cowboy and everything. No. It breaks my heart to see the stupidity of human beings and the way they treat animals.
I know, it just makes me sick.
Yep. Got to pay some bills. Don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh my, all 7 locations serving you with all the traction tires and all the snow chains and, of course, all the pin for stud tires. They've got everything to get you through the mud and the muck and all the snow. All you have to do is stop in and see them today at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Or maybe your car is not in alignment and you're wearing your tires off. The best in front end alignment services and, of course, shocks and struts, and the very best of brake service. Absolutely. And they've got all the batteries, too, to make sure your four-wheeled wonder starts in all the cold weather. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. A little news note about what we're going to start doing next week on Mondays. Monday at 10:30, all the way through the legislative session, we're going to have a segment on the legislative update, and we're going to be talking to either Senator Dean Cameron or Representative Fred Wood or Speaker Scott Bedke. I'm going to try to get some other people on the air with us also that represent other areas of southern Idaho. So that's going to be coming up on Monday at 10:30. 10:30. And then, of course, other things next week, the Idaho Fish and Game Report. We've got Dr. History and just all kinds of things. And we certainly appreciate your tuning in and listening to us right here on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live on the internet all over the universe on ZebBell.com. What are you going to do this weekend, kid?
Probably work on cars. I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe go skiing.
Skiing? You're into this now, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Kind of a snow bunny.
I'm not that good, and I hate being cold, but I get out there because it's fun, and, of course, I get to spend quality time with my guy. And then we're also teaching Kennedy how to do it, so it's a little bit of an incentive.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I used to, believe it or not, I used to ski. I did. I learned how to ski with the outrigger skis on the crutches. And also the 2 regular skis on my legs. And it was amazing. I could cover all 4 points of the compass in one fall.
I'm sure it was a look of a graceful maneuver.
Don't bet on it, kid. It was ugly. Anyway, have a great weekend. The way things were, the way things ought to be. Zeb at the Ranch. We'll see you Monday at 8:06. God bless.